to make sure
Okay.
that we're.
No, those islands are gorgeous, oh my.
Oh,
God.
yes. Have you had the family there at all?
No.
No.
You know, I wouldn't,
I make a brief when we get started here, Bill, I make a brief introduction.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the questions.
Fine.
You just bear with me and I'll do the best I can.
I will lock yous in here.
Okay.
At 4 o'clock I leave, go out that door.
Out that door.
Just shut these lights off. That's all you
Okay.
gotta do, and I'll take care of everything tomorrow.
Thanks, Jim.
Perfect, thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon. Today's date is Thursday, the 18th of September, and we are coming to you from high atop the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Buffalo, New York. We are continuing the Veterans History Project, wherein we capture the memories of our heroes, and that's exactly what they are. Our veteran heroes who protected this country. We do this so that the Department of Defense and the Library of Congress and the people who follow will know what contribution was made to the cause of defense of this country. Our special guest today, my name is Joe Panzarella. I'll be the interviewer. Our interviewee today, Mr. Bill Hamm, World War II, Pacific Theater. We've got Mr. Jim Shear on our camera, Dr. Steve Passmore on our cameras, and also in the studio today, Diane, the wife of Bill Hamm, and Janice, his daughter. We welcome you all to the Veterans History Project. Now, Bill, to begin this interview, first of all, let me welcome you. How grateful I am that you came to be part of this terrific project.
more than welcome.
Terrific project.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Now, Bill, what we'll do here in opening this up, we're going to ask you briefly, before service time, before you went into the service, we want to know a little bit about Bill Hamm. Where did you live, for example?
South Buffalo.
South Buffalo.
Yep.
And you lived with a family,
My stepmother and my brother.
that mother and brother.
Yeah.
And tell us just a little bit about schools. Where did you go to school?
72, I graduated from 72 school in South Buffalo, Lorraine Avenue. And then I got my formal education by being a hobo for 2 years.
A hobo for 2 years before you went in the
I
service.
traveled around the country. Believe it or not, at that time you couldn't, men couldn't find work. Kids, absolutely nothing.
And how old were you at this time that you became a hobo?
I hadn't quite just had my 16th birthday.
So unusual for a young man to be so-called a hobo at age 16.
That probably so, but actually at that time there were about they estimated 1 million men, what they call riding the rods. That's the freight trains in our country. A lot of ex-millionaires from Wall Street and so forth. Those that didn't kill themselves, a lot of them were riding around, going to different cities, trying their luck at different endeavors.
And what does a hobo do? What did you do?
Well, you have a hobo and you have a bum. Now a bum will not work. He'll ride around, he'll do everything but work. A hobo, he'll take any job he can get to earn a buck. And at that time, you made a buck in a day, you were doing pretty good.
Now, where did you do this hoboing thing? Were you
All over the
in this
United
area?
States.
All over the U.S. As a young man of 16, you're traveling all over.
I've probably been across the country 7 or 8 times maybe at that time. Well, one of the things we do, we go down to either Kansas or Texas along about June. That's where the wheat ripened first in the grain belt. And you could get a job there for a buck a day harvesting the wheat. Now, none of the farmers had threshing machines. That was a special entity. There was probably 150 people that had threshers, and they would work north. As the wheat ripened, they would just head north. And they would thresh the wheat for so much a bushel for the farmers. See, a thresher was a big investment, and you only used it once a year. That's why they didn't buy them, you know. And you tied too much money up. So you could get that job there for $1 a day. Now, one of the habits you got there, believe it or not, you learn to chew tobacco.
And that's what you did
Why?
at 16 years old.
I know that was the dustiest job you could get. There was so much dust. If you didn't chew tobacco, you swallowed your spit,
Oh, jeez.
and that went thick with dust.
Oh, jeez.
But if you chewed, you expectorated, and got rid of the dust. Even at 16.
16 years of age, chewing tobacco.
Yeah, everybody chewed tobacco.
Okay, formal education, Bill, high school, was there any high school?
1 year.
1 year,
Yeah.
just before you became a hobo? And how did, you came from an Irish family, South Dublin.
Irish, English, Scotch.
How did Mrs. Hamm, Mama Hamm, feel about her
My
son?
mother died when I was 8 years old. So my father didn't marry right away. He got married about 4 years later. So he kept the family together, but we just lived. We just did what we wanted. 4 boys. We did what we wanted pretty much.
Yeah.
Went to school. But it was surprising with a background like that. You would think we'd have gotten in a lot of trouble.
Well, I was gonna say, how did,
Not one of us ever got arrested, and not one of us ever got a divorce.
you know, the question I would have for you, how did the caregiver feel about this young man going to be a hobo at this age?
Who cared? Who cared? Except the old man, and he was busy. He worked 10 hours. My father worked 10 hours a day all during the Depression. He was a railroad man. By the way, when he retired, he was the oldest man in the Pennsylvania Division. He worked 49 and a half years.
Wow.
Yep. And I never heard the man complain about his work once, and he worked like a beast. Oh, yeah.
So you did this hoboing thing for a couple of years. So you were all over the country.
I'll tell you, it's hard to believe, but it taught you things that you would never learn in school.
I would guess.
It taught you how to take care of yourself. It taught you, even a big mouth like me, to shut your mouth once in a while. Or somebody would shut it for you.
And how about things like food and meals and
Well,
clothing and cleanliness?
You bummed a lot of
and
them.
showers.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I was only on the road for about a week. I was in a hobo jungle outside Gary, Indiana, outside Chicago. And a bunch of the bums were talking. They said, you know, they got a big gandy dancing job up in northern Illinois that's laying track for the railroads. They call them gandy dancers.
Gandy dancers.
Gandy dancers.
Gandy
Because the company that made all the tools was the Gandy company. They made all the tools you need to lay track. And I got up there, and all the guys went through to the foreman. Yeah, I'll take you. And he said, what the hell do you want? I said, I want a job. We don't hire kids. I said, let me tell you something. I said, if I don't outwork anybody there, I said, all you do is nod your head and I'll walk. I said, I'll walk right off the job. You don't have to pay me nothing. But I'll guarantee you I'll work better than anybody there. I worked there 2 months.
Bill, what was the average age of you guys doing this hoboing? What was the average age? Were you very young for that?
Yeah, I was very young.
You were very young.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So these guys that you were hoboing with were much older than you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the Gandy dancing gang, most of them were Mexicans.
Mexican.
Yeah. Give you an example, like they gave you room aboard. They had beds in the old cars they used with beds in there, and they had dining cars, and wooden tables and benches. Now, every Saturday night, for the Mexicans, they had chili. So I'm going in first Saturday night, you know, and they get these little bowls of these little tiny dried peppers, you know. And I'm watching these Mexicans, you know, they put a layer that much on top of their chili, and I said, hey, is that any good? Oh, he said, it's no good without that. He said, that's delicious, try it. What the hell? You told me it was good. Boom. Pooh! I had blisters on my tongue, I had blisters in my mouth. I couldn't eat for 3 days. Honest to God.
What year was it you began this hoboing, Bill?
1936.
36.
The end of 35, 36, yeah, 37, 30, come home 38.
So you decided then, after a couple of years, to come on back home?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then after, when you got back home, roughly 1938, you went back to home. Was home still where it was?
Yeah, my
What street was that?
stepmother and my brother, no, he wasn't home yet. He was in the CCCs. He was in there for 3 years.
Explain the CCCs for the
Civilian Conservation Corps.
Okay, what did they do?
They did everything. Our government right now is probably reaping a number of billions of dollars every year for the work they did. They planted 300 million trees. They made earthen dams out west. They cleared the land for the TVA, the biggest electrical project. They cleared all that land down there for the contractors. They did everything.
And what did they pay those guys? Was that per day? How'd they
You
get?
got $30. You had to be 18.
Okay,
You got $30 a month.
okay, $1 a day.
You got $8 and 22 went home to your parents. Because of that, they only lasted 9 years. Then it was out of business. But there was probably 3 million families that made it through the Depression that never would have made it if the kids hadn't gone in there and got that $22 a month in there for their family.
Now, you never did CC, you said your brother did,
He did, yeah.
but
Yeah,
you never did.
I wasn't old enough
You're
yet.
not old
18.
enough. 18. So when you got back home in 38,
Yeah.
how old were you then?
About 18.
18.
I was home about a year.
Okay.
Because I went back into service, went into service when I was 19.
So how did Uncle Sam catch up with you?
He didn't. I took several jobs. I made washing. Me and my buddy made washing solution and delivered it for about a year. Not quite a year.
You made washing solution, that's that, like
Clark's.
Clorox, you made that.
Yeah.
Did you make it at home?
No, and his father he bought this 250-gallon tank, a wooden tank. He filled it with water, put 5 gallons of caustic soda in there, stirred it up, and that was it. Bottled it,
You
and sold it.
You sold it.
Yeah,
You did that for a while.
about a year.
And how did Uncle Sam catch up with you? Did you enlist or
Then,
were you
well,
drafted?
then my buddy was in the guard, like I told you.
Okay,
So we knew the war was going to come,
yeah,
and we knew they were going to federal, because in the paper it even said they were going to federalize it.
okay,
So I joined the guard because I wanted to be with him.
okay. What unit was he in?
106.
106 Field Artillery.
106 field artillery.
So that's when you first stepped up to the plate
Oh,
and
yeah.
joined.
Yeah.
And you,
And
so
we
you,
went down to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
okay, you were federalized.
Yeah.
The National Guard was federal.
Yeah.
Fort
We took-
McClellan, what did you do down at Fort
We
McClellan?
got our basic training
Basic
in and things like that,
Okay.
and just got a little more proficient. We had, I'll say one thing, we had probably some of the best firing quads in the whole goddamn army. Our boys, believe it or not, this is the 155, that's separate loading ammunition. You know that. You put your projectile in, you put your powder in, close your breech, you put a primer in and fire.
I don't want you to get too far ahead of me now.
Yeah.
This is the 155.
155
But you
pounds.
did you
It's
study
a
that?
6-inch gun.
Yeah, did you study that in basic training?
Oh yeah,
You did.
oh yeah.
Did you go down there, McClellan, as a unit, as the 106?
Oh yeah,
You
oh
did.
yeah.
So you stayed together as a unit?
Yeah.
That was all Buffalo National Guard?
Buffalo, Western New York.
Okay,
See,
so the 106, what guns did you have? What
One-
gun?
155.
Strictly the
6-inch,
155?
it's a 6-inch gun.
In the whole field artillery battery, that was the one gun that they shot. They didn't use the 105, strictly the
That was
150.
separate, they were different, there was different outfits.
Different outfit.
Yeah, our guns would throw a 100-pound shell up to about 12 miles.
12 miles, 100-pound shell.
Yeah, and you could have them so you get treetop bursts, you could have smoke shells, they had a myriad of them, you know.
And that's the gun that you fired in basic.
Yeah.
Now the 155, that was the heavy gun.
That was
the
a heavy gun,
the
that's
heavy
right.
gun.
Well, it was a medium gun. They
Medium.
had, what you had was, here's the thing, you had your infantry regiments.
Right.
Behind that, you had a 105 millimeter regiment.
The light artillery.
Yeah, later, it's a 4-inch gun.
Okay.
Backing them up, you had the 155s.
Where you guys.
Yeah. Then you had the brigade, the 240s. They threw an 8-inch shell.
8-inch shell.
It was 250 pounds.
Wow.
See, and that was not very mobile. It was mobile, but not very. In other words, once they set them up, that
Right.
was it.
And what was your job in the 106th? You were a member of a squad.
Communications, radio.
You were in radio,
Yeah.
but you still had to learn how to fire the 155.
Oh, yeah, they made all of us go through it cursory, like, you know. I suppose if the problem ever arose, you could fill in for somebody.
Right.
You know,
And they also trained you with weapons.
oh, yeah, oh,
with
yeah.
the rifle, you trained
See,
with
it's
them.
different there in them days. We had the 3006, a Springfield, beautiful gun. When you had that gun, you aimed that gun, they expected you to kill somebody. They expect you to hit them. Today, all they want you to do is throw about 500 rounds out there and hope you hit something. Yeah. To me, that's what it looks like. Because there's no aim, it's just, you know, what. So, but when you shot that gun, you were expected to hit something.
Yeah. Now you had one big advantage in basic. You were with people you knew.
Oh,
from
yeah.
Buffalo.
Well,
Your
that's
buddy,
one reason I joined with him.
because of your buddy.
Yeah, because of him, and because we had some time to get to know everybody and, you know, get a little more proficient. Have a better chance of coming back, I figured.
Yeah.
So we signed up for a year.
In the National Guard, you signed up for a year.
Yeah.
How
Got
long
back
was-
5.5 years later.
How long was basic training? How long were you there, McClellan?
Oh my God, we had basic training 2 or 3 times.
You
It's
did?
a 13-week course,
2 weeks.
13 weeks.
13 weeks. 13 weeks. And once you got proficient with the rifle and the
Oh
155,
yeah.
what on the 155, for example, where did you train? What job did you have on the 155?
Well, like I said, we were forward observers. We had a little team of our own.
You better explain it. Let's
Well,
cover
what you
our
would
forward.
do is in combat, you would find a spot where you could overlook, if you could, the whole battleground and see where the enemy was, see where your troops, see where the line was.
You were much forward of the guns.
Well, at times we were ahead of the front
You were
lines.
ahead of the front lines.
At times, like say if there's a hill over
Okay.
on the lateral side,
Okay.
you'd go up on there, and then you could call down your shots.
Okay.
So we prided ourselves. We could put our shelf at 100-yard radius.
100-yard radius for the
Yeah,
burst.
from the
burst.
burst.
Okay.
We could put, our guys could put that shell 50 yards in front of our lines, and none of the other ones could do it that good. We had the best artillery in the whole damn Pacific.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now, again, it's a separate loading ammunition. It ain't like you throw a shell in and fire. You put the shell in first, you ram it home, then you put increments of powder. Powder came in 7 increments, little cloth bags, 7 different sizes, depending on what range
How
you're
far
from.
you wanted to shoot this.
Exactly. So you put whatever in, you put that in, close your breech, put the primer in, and pull the land.
Now, that would be a loader. The guy that would do that would be a guy who loads the.
2 guys,
Did you do that
they went
too?
up on it, no,
No, you didn't.
that was only in the gun outfits.
Okay.
Yeah, they went up with a tray and the projectile was there and the guy back with a ramrod,
Okay.
he'd ram it in.
So when you were a forward observer, then you had a radio, and that's how you were.
Communication.
Communication.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you were communicating with your guns.
We were up with we traveled with the infantry.
Traveled
all
with
the
the
time.
infantry.
Oh yeah.
And you had a radio strapped to your back.
Well, yeah, we put it on the ground, it had 4 little legs there, had the generator.
How heavy was that radio?
40 pounds.
You carried a 40-pound radio on your back while you walked with the infantry.
You carried it on your back when you landed too, when you went through the surface.
How much did you weigh at the time?
I don't know, probably 150 pounds.
So you were carrying a 40-pound. How far did you have to walk with that?
Whatever it took. Oh,
That was no easy job, Bill.
Huh?
That was no easy job.
Wasn't a hard job.
Not hard carrying a 40-pound radio.
Don't forget, when you're a young kid, you can do anything.
Yeah. So you communicated with the gun, with the battery. Am I using
The
the
firing battery?
Am I using the correct term? Battery for
Yeah, the
guns?
firing battery.
You communicated with them and you told them where to shoot the
Yeah,
shell.
we tell them, you had your lieutenant had your map with the coordinates on it.
Yeah.
And then he figured that out, and then we figured so many yards ahead of the front line. The first shot, you're trying to put maybe 150, 200 yards ahead of the front line.
Okay.
Because you don't want to kill your own guy.
Yeah, right.
Well, then once that landed, then you get your correction. Be down 50, right 50, or whatever, you know.
So many clicks as you
Yeah, so
people-
many yards,
So
yeah.
many yards.
And then the gunners took care of that.
How many guys were in the forward observer?
There were four
There
of
were
us.
4 of you.
I was a radio operator. My helper was a G-man, generator man. He carried the generator, which again that was probably about 60 pounds.
Okay, he had to
Wind it up. That's what. See, they didn't have they had no batteries in them.
No.
Like they do now.
Now, while you were
Talking.
he had to be cranking. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
So there's a cranker. You were the radio. Who was the other 2 people?
Then you had the lieutenant,
The lieutenant.
and they had a sergeant backing him up. In case anything happened to him, the sergeant would take
The
over.
lieutenant was spotting the fire, and he was
Yeah.
calling for the.
Yeah, he'd call back to whatever corrections you wanted to make, and then I would call them back. And like I say, on the initial landing, we used the Navy destroyers and cruisers for our artillery.
Yeah, I'd like to cover a little bit of that too, Bill. But let's stay with the basic training for now, just for now, at McClellan.
Yeah.
So you're there for 13 weeks. How did you find the food in the Army?
Well, it was pretty good then. Yeah,
Well, from a guy
pretty
who-
damn good, really.
From a guy who was on the road for a couple of years, not knowing where your next meal
You're eating every
this
day.
This had to be good.
Oh, yeah. Well, on the road, like a lot of times you'd be on a freight, you could pick up a can of Campbell beans, 5 cents. There's a pound of beans.
When you were on the road.
Yeah. And every little town had a bakery. You could get day-old rolls for 2 cents a piece. So you get yourself 2 or 3 rolls, you got a can of beans, you got a meal.
So when you went into service and you had these great Army meals, right?
Oh, yeah.
Meat and
Oh,
potatoes.
yeah, oh, yeah. Oh,
You must have been, you
Oh,
thought
yeah.
you were in heaven. And you
Yeah.
showered regularly?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And were you any good with the rifle? How'd you do with the rifle? Did you
Expert.
qualify with that?
I was expert, yeah.
Expert with
Oh,
it,
yeah.
right?
In other words, you had to put them all in the bowl.
Now,
5 shots you had to put in the bowl.
5 shots in a bowl. And you shot that as expert. How many yards from you was the target?
150 yards.
150 yards. Excellent.
Sometimes 200. We had a major, 67 years old, that qualified as expert. Now this is with the open sights, the ramp sights, at 800 yards.
800 yards.
He put them in that much space, 5 shots. Charlie Weber, I'll never forget.
Never
That
forget.
old
Was he a
guy.
Buffalo man? Was he
Oh
a
yeah,
Buffalo
yeah,
man?
absolutely. Then what happened, when Pearl happened, then he said, well, I'm going home. Then he quit. He was 67, you know. That's
Yeah.
no place for a guy that had a whole...
Today they don't have majors at 67.
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
He was a great old guy, though.
Now, so was this just after 38, let's say roughly 39 now when you were in basic training?
No,
at
we were,
McClellan?
that's when we was in the Guard for a couple of months, I was, before
Okay.
we were federalized.
So was it roughly about 39, 1939, you were down McClellan?
Actually, I think I joined September, I think, 39.
39. So you were down McClellan close to the end
No,
of
3 months later.
3 months
We
later?
got federalized, and it took 2 weeks to pack up, and then we went down there.
And after basic training, where did you go?
Well, on December 7th, it was a Sunday morning.
This is 1941.
Yep.
But wait, are we jumping from 39 to 41 now?
Yep. Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, the skipper fell us in. He said, okay, because a lot of us had tickets. We were home, we were due for a week's furlough. He said, turn all your tickets in. He said, nobody's going anywhere. You go into town today, you gotta all get a pass, and turn your tickets in. The 9th, myself and 19 other guys, 20 guys, were on advanced detail heading for California on a train. Because there was nobody to take care of to protect Hawaii. Oh, and I think ours was one of the few Guard outfits that was combat ready. I think that was the reason we were picked. Because we went out to California, and it took a month, believe it or not, before they got organized enough. And we went up to San Francisco, and the old Canard liner flagship, the Aquitania, was in port. See, the Aquitania was replaced by the Queen Mary, and that was up in Scotland after that, that was, they're gonna scrap it. But then Germany declared war on England, so they put a stop order. Anyway, the Aquitania was in port. So they hired that right away. And we went up there, we got on the Aquitania, and ready to pull out, and our naval bosses, they told me, said, well, we're gonna give you 2 destroyers and a cruiser for an escort. He says, like hell you are. He says, I got the fastest ship in the world. He says, this ship will go 39 knots an hour. He says, you have nothing that'll keep up with us. The Japs have nothing that'll keep up with us. He said, I'll be from here, I'll be in Hawaii in 2 days. He wouldn't go. 2 days they argued. Finally, our government called the British government, then they got after the captain. They said, either you take the ship out or we'll put an American captain on it. So he did.
You went over to Hawaii as still part of the 106.
No, by then we had changed over.
You had changed.
Yeah.
What were you then?
The headquarters battery of the 222nd Field Artillery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still
Another-
a 155.
Still a
unit.
155.
And your purpose of going there was to defend Hawaii.
Oh yeah, yeah. They divided our division up among all the islands. Now our battalion went up to Hawaii, put the guns all in place, whatever. We didn't know what we were going to need or what we were going to do. You know, we were there for, I don't know, I think 14 months, 15 months.
And did you see the devastation that the Japs had wrecked?
Oh, and when we got into Pearl,
When you got into
everything
Pearl
was still smoldering.
Still smoldering.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, then they found out that the Japan, first of all, 45% of Hawaii's population was Japanese. You probably know that.
I didn't, but that's interesting.
Oh yeah. The man owned the biggest department store in Honolulu. He had a 10-story building. On the 10th floor, he had a complete radio setup. He was actually guiding the Japanese planes. He, like, for example, in Hickam Field, there'd be maybe 10 hangars. You know, hit the first 3. They got planes in them. Forget the next 2. Then hit the next 2. I mean, detailed information like that. You know, only where there was something to destroy. This guy, they caught him the day after.
They caught him.
Yeah, they got him the day after that. I never did hear what happened. I thought they should have hung the son of a gun.
I think you're right.
Yeah. 'Cause, hey, 2,200 men lost their lives out there, sailors. That was terrible.
So you
And an admiral got court-martialed, you know. Admiral Short. Because he had warning. They knew beforehand. And
About
wouldn't-
this
and he-
attack?
Yeah, and they wouldn't move the ships out of the harbor.
And you had several of those ships were hit. Some of them were sunk out there.
Most
right?
of them,
Most
yeah.
of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw all that, Bill.
Oh, yeah. There'd be lines, there'd be 3 or 4 destroyers. They tied them up together when they were, you know, in port. And all
Gone.
smashed to hell,
All gone.
all bombed to hell, yeah.
And I understand it was very fortunate that there were no aircraft carriers that were there at Pearl at that time.
There was one there 2 days before, and it shipped out, thank God.
Yeah. Had that not have been the case, Bill, maybe this war would have been a whole new had a whole new turn.
Yeah, yeah.
Had they had those the
Well,
carriers.
if they'd have taken Hawaii, Christ, I don't know how long it would have taken us to take it back. Really, when you think of, well, we spent, like I say,
About 14 months. you said.
14, 15 months there, only because they didn't have enough equipment or ammunition or anything to start a war. You couldn't do nothing. All you could do was try and hold on to what you had.
We were caught unprepared.
Oh my God, yes.
So you must have found the duty in Hawaii fairly pleasant.
Lovely.
Nobody
Beautiful.
Nobody's shooting at you guys.
Oh God, no. Swimming every day.
Wow. And that beautiful pristine waters.
Oh yeah.
And how about the food?
Good.
Excellent.
Good, yeah.
Fresh pineapple,
Then,
certainly.
then on Kauai, we had no MPs at all. So what they did, they stopped with what they call the radio patrol. I was in charge of that. They had 2 command cars and they had the long distance radios in them. So they had 4 drivers and 4 operators. And we split the island in 2. There's only 17 miles of road there. The rest is impenetrable. The rest of the island, sheer cliffs. And they took half and we took half. And you worked 12 hours a day. And at night, if you saw a light up in the hills, you had to get up there, find out who the hell it was, because there were so many Japanese people.
Yeah.
And arrest them and take them down and
Yeah.
throw them in the brig. So I did that for 10 months.
10 months. You were on the island of
Kauai.
Kauai.
The more northernmost
The
island.
northernmost. And how about Oahu? Oahu was the
That's the big island.
the big island.
Yeah.
So you guys just had Kauai. That's all you were.
That particular outfit.
That particular
But
outfit.
the different segments went to different islands.
Okay, I
So
found.
they had some representation on each island.
Right.
Somebody to defend it.
Supposedly defending that island.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, they were building up our forces, and you guys were going to be
Yeah.
deployed from there. So you enjoyed that Hawaiian duty, though.
Actually, people don't know that. Even after they got going, when MacArthur wanted to make a landing on a given island, he had to call in troops from Alaska, from here, from there. He didn't have enough men, really, because don't forget, we were second choice. Not Europe had first choice on absolutely everything because of a much bigger war, you know. So we got what was left,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
But that's what he do. He get these troops from all over the Pacific, make his landing, secure the island, and ship them back fast
Yeah.
so somebody didn't go in and take them islands again. So,
And fortunately, the Japanese, they did not come at us again. After December 7,
oh yeah.
they didn't come at us again on that island, on the island of Hawaii.
If they'd have brought a landing force with them, it would have been all over. They could have just taken it. They wouldn't have, there was no army there. There's just nothing. I don't know, you know, but, no,
So once you had built up then, once you had been on the
Yeah.
island, you did your job defending it, and fortunately for you and for most of us, there was no second attack. Then you were gonna be deployed from there.
well, we went the very first thing we had, we were the first outfit out of there too, and went down to Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal. Now, we were talking and said that we were amazed that the small little island of Guadalcanal, how tiny it was, and for the number of casualties that were suffered there.
They had a lot of men there.
Now, were you in
The
on,
Japs did.
were you in on the original, one of the original,
No.
assaults there?
Like I told you, that was supposed to be a Marine deal, strictly.
Okay,
I guess they must have shipped us down there for backup. This is all conjecture on my part.
Right.
But there's no other reason. Why would our boat be down there, you know, that close to there, with a full complement of fighting men? And I think what happened is there were a lot more Japs than they anticipated. This is only my idea. Because right away, we had gone bypassed Guadalcanal, went over to Lae, New Guinea, and they stayed at Lae for a couple of days. And then, right away, they put us back on and right up to Guadalcanal. So apparently they were having trouble then, the Marines. So we landed our guys in there, and we were fighting and still fighting for, God, I think, over 3 weeks.
so you were there doing forward observer duty as a radio man,
Yeah.
while we were in Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
You wanna tell us a little bit about some of the action maybe that went, that you,
Just a day to day, that you didn't often, first of all, they didn't call for close support, because up till that time, they didn't have any artillery that was that accurate, that proficient. And I mean, I'm serious too now. In fact, they doubted, they had one situation where they called close support and they used the 105s. They thought, oh, these are better. And I think they killed a half a dozen of their men. So they called it off. So I think our lieutenant happened to be there. He says, we can put them shells down, they won't hit your men. He says, and we'll really do some damage. Because what they use is, they had a shell, they would burst when it was at treetop level. And it was all segmented. So he had about 400 pieces of shrapnel from every shell, and it just rained down. So hit your shell's up there, your troops are here, and devastating them. So, And the guy, the lieutenant, he finally talked him in, and he said, give us a try. He says, but all we're gonna say is, when we're ready, we're gonna tell you, and then tell your guys to get down in them damn foxholes as deep as they can. At least for about 2 minutes. So they did. So Jesus, the first shell was over about 50 yards, 200 yards. Then he brought it down, it was perfect. And holy crap, they had, I don't know how many Japanese he killed with that shrapnel. Then they put a barrage down there, and that was the end. They didn't have a big fight anymore.
So the field artillery was largely responsible for
Well, it
success?
helped.
It helped?
They helped.
It helped,
Yeah,
sure,
that's
sure.
what we do.
All effort, doesn't it?
Everything.
Sure.
I'll tell you, the way I feel about the different services, they couldn't ask more of any of them. They all did their best. They did, and they did damn fair. They worked together fabulously.
And you also said something very interesting. You said that as a forward observer, calling in strikes by friendly 155 batteries to the battlefield, but you also said that you used the Navy's guns
Oh yeah. Well, we did
to
that.
fire on the jet.
Our guns weighed 7.5 tons. They couldn't get them all the time. They couldn't get them landed that fast. It took time to get them in.
So before you used the guns
Of our own guns.
of your own, you used Navy
Yeah,
guns.
we used destroyers and cruisers.
So you were actually communicating with Navy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
telling
why
the Navy
that
where.
was the reason for this oversized radio. See, their radios they can't communicate anywhere in the world. We don't need radios like that in the artillery because we're within a few miles of each other. When the walkie-talkies come out, that's all they had to use.
But you were using your radios to communicate with the Navy.
Yeah, and our own troops. We could do
And
it
your own
both
troops.
ways, both ways. But they had to have the big radio to make sure you were what they needed.
Now those guns on the ship, they were much bigger guns. than
No.
They
The
no.
destroyer had a 5-inch gun. They only had one usually, but that was pretty good. They were damn good. They were damn good and pretty accurate. Now the cruisers, the light cruiser had an 8-inch gun. The heavy cruiser, I think, had a 10-inch gun.
And you were calling fire on troop positions or
No, front lines.
right on the front lines because of this type shell that you said would give an air burst
Yeah.
and was catch. So that was very effective. Very
Oh
effective.
God, yeah. Well, it was for anti-personnel. That's
Right.
what it was.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Bill, any particular, this would be a tough question for me to ask, but with one of these bursts, would you have any guesstimate of how much area was covered in, say, yards?
Well, they said their effective bursting range, from the middle, 150 yards either way.
50 yards?
Yeah.
In a circle,
Mm-hmm.
effective.
So you try to drop it 50 yards in front of it, which was, we did it a couple of times, but that was, mostly they got out 75, 80 yards, 100 yards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mostly, but every once in a while you get one perfect there.
Yeah.
And which is fantastic because any troops in there, they got the hell beat out of them.
Were you guys on Guadalcanal, was that terrain, was that hilly, mountainous type terrain? How was that?
All jungle there.
All jungle.
Mountains, everything. The whole works.
So, but when you forward observed like you guys did, somebody had to select a spot where you could see enemy.
That's our Louis would pick that
He
out.
picked that out.
Yeah. We'd be
So
in
would you try to
front
find
line.
high ground, Bill? Did you try to? Yeah.
Sometimes you got a good place, sometimes you
Yeah.
only stand right there.
Yeah.
Occasionally it'd be something that maybe off to the lateral side, there'd be a little hill or something.
Yeah.
Then you'd try to go up there.
And when you were in the forward, how long were you in that role? How long were you forward of the troops? How long were you
We'd
doing
stay with them till the battle was over.
to the battle? So you may have been up there for quite a while,
Oh, yeah.
days,
Oh, yeah.
days.
Yeah, not too, but the infantrymen loved us. We could save their fanny.
I guess.
You know, and it was mutual, because, you know, that is the hardest, the worst, the toughest job in the world, being an infantryman.
Yeah.
They got all the crap, all the dirt, they got,
Yeah, that was
but
tough.
I'll tell you, that's where a lot of your real men came from.
Yeah.
The infantry, 'cause you had to be there, believe me. They had a terrible life up there,
Yeah.
really.
And you guys were even forward of them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're forward. Bill, what would you guesstimate, how long were you in battle? How long were you?
Actually, most of it was very short.
Short time.
Oh, yeah. Actually, the biggest problem being out there was sitting on your fanny doing nothing. There was nothing to do, no place to go. And I mean, actually,
Yeah.
when this goes on month after month
Yeah.
after month, after a while you get wacky.
What did you do from going away? What did you guys do? How did you,
Cards, play
play cards,
play dice.
shoot craps?
I love to. I still play solitaire.
Yeah.
That was my favorite pastime.
And did you have was there any, how about rations? How did you guys get fed when you were
Oh,
forward?
Don't forget, that's when the dehydrated food first came out. The potatoes, oh my God, they were disgusting, but they were food. I mean, you got hungry enough, you ate them.
Mix it with water, Bill?
Oh, they'd mash them, they'd serve them every, spam, our cooks had 100 ways to cook spam. You know the truth, I loved it. I love spam.
Is it the same stuff that's on the shelves today, spam?
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
you had spam and potatoes, dehydrated.
Dried powdered eggs, powdered milk, that was terrible. Generally, the dehydrated food, it was in its infancy. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was acceptable, but today, you couldn't do anything, you couldn't
Right.
sell it. You couldn't give it away today.
No fresh fruits, no fresh vegetables, no
No.
fresh meats, nothing like that.
No.
And how about showers and keeping yourself changing?
We had a shower head, we'd rig it up on a hose and, put a 50-gallon drum up on a platform, and we make them.
That's how you.
Because we were, like I say, we were in New Britain. I think we must have been there 6 months or so. You know, you had to wash your own clothes, obviously. You go down to the creek and scrub them away. That's what you did.
So you were on the island of Guadalcanal. Where else did you mentioned some other island there?
Well, we went from Guadalcanal to New Britain.
Okay.
And there we got the best surprise of our life. Because they figured there were quite a number of thousands of Japs on there. New Britain, there was a small town, Rabaul, on the northern tip. We landed on the southern end. But the only thing is, the Navy did their job for us there. Because as soon as they landed, the Navy never let them get a supply boat in there. They sunk them every time they come in. So they had no supplies for over a year and a half or something. They didn't have anything to fight with. So all we were there for was to hold. We didn't know this, but to hold them. We were there because they didn't dare try anything, because we go up and clean them up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have to, you don't do it, which is exactly what happened there. So we didn't have to fire a shot there.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got several breaks really, compared to some of these other. It's just the luck of the draw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever your island you're taking.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, the three worst battles out there that I could see:
Mm-hmm.
Guadalcanal, Leyte, and Okinawa.
And being a forward observer,
Yeah.
being sometimes in some instances, as you say, forward of even friendly forces, you guys must have got shot at.
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
We're pretty lucky in pulling our spot. We'd see a hill might be half a mile away, you know, but it would be where we could get a good look at the battlefield.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be any over there.
Fortunately, you guys weren't. You would be a good target.
Yeah.
They would want to knock you off first,
yeah.
right? Calling fire on them.
Oh, if there was any doubt what they would do with the infantry, they send a squad up with us.
So protect you.
10-man squad.
Yeah, to defend
You
you.
know, to help us, you know, if there's
Excellent.
somebody there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a. Yeah, we had the world by the fanny. It was good.
So you were Guadalcanal, Leyte, and you said New Britain?
No, we were from Guadalcanal,
Yeah.
and then New Britain was
New
our
Britain.
next one.
Okay.
Now, then after we were there a while, our crew went to Bougainville
Bougainville.
because the outfit that landed on Bougainville didn't have a forward observer crew.
Okay.
So we were only there for a week, but our little crew was in there for that 1 week.
Okay.
Then we went back to our outfit. So, and then from there, like I say, we were there a long time. Then they just started hitting the Philippines. We were going to hit the main island, Luzon.
Luzon.
Yeah. Now I don't know where the hell they got their dope from, but they must have figured there was a huge force there, because like I say, I think they said there was something like 700 ships in our flotilla. I mean, oh my God, everywhere you look there were ships. And I told you, when we get up to we went in Guyan Gulf, we got up to the shore, the Navy put 120,000 rounds on that beach.
Ooh.
There wasn't a mouse on the damn beach, for God's sake. He walked in there, and then from there we took the lead. We started going in toward the capital. We got to Clark Field, and they pulled us off. Clark Field is a beautiful airfield. It's a valley. I don't know, maybe 5-6 miles long. I have no idea, and completely ringed by mountains, and maybe a couple miles wide. Oh my God! And on the way up, me being a radio man, we were on the flagship, our little group, the USS Rocky Mount. I'd go up in the radio shack and shoot the breeze with the radio man. And he had a radio that got the news. So you hear a report that says, well, today Admiral Bull Halsey's Terrier task group destroyed 35 jet planes on Clark Field. And he said, yeah, them bastards are trying to get us. Hey, you know, he said, we ain't going to be afraid to go in there. And the next day it was the same, and the next day it was the same. We get up there, they weren't lying. They weren't lying. Everywhere you looked, there were zeros shot all the, there'd be rows of 10 of them. Shot all to hell. Oh my God, yeah. They did that. They did exactly what they said. Yeah. No,
You saw some devastation there.
oh God, yeah. But the ring in that field, there was a series of caves. We heard there was 5,000 men. Later on, I heard there was a lot more than that, Japs in there. And our job was to root them out. They pulled us aside and put us there, and they put another outfit that went into Manila. So we didn't know what the hell to do. They borrowed a bulldozer from the engineers, and they'd haul one of our guns up to about 150 yards from the cave and shoot 155s over the top and get a landslide. And then 5 o'clock in the afternoon or so, they'd pull the gun back. By the next morning, the Japs had that all dug out again. They'd bring their gun out and shoot 2 or 3 rounds and go back in. That went on for a week. So I forget the general's name, was in charge of the whole army out there. You know, you guys are doing a lousy job. He says, there's some paratroops coming. I'm going to let them take care of it. And he got this company of paratroops up there. Holy crap. See, they give these guys all kinds of crap. You know, you're the best man in the world. Nobody's better than you. They carry more of them guys out than you could count. They lasted a week. They pulled them out. They said, okay, you guys, you can go back in there. Because what we needed was flamethrowers, and our infantry didn't have them. Everything went like that. There were times when our infantry didn't have hand grenades. They all went to Europe. So meanwhile, they got a hold of some hand grenades, or some flamethrowers. You take them, put a squad of men, they go in there and burn the place out. Take the engineers, they go in about 50, 100 feet, set up some big charges up and close the cave up. And they just did that all around the field. So, which was the only way you could do it.
What year was this about, Bill? In
44.
44.
Yeah.
So like you said something very interesting.
Well, no, it could be early end of 44 or early 45.
Okay, you said something very interesting. You said that the priority was placed on the European theater.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, you got to realize that was, oh Christ, what do they have? 10 times more men than we had.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a huge endeavor.
Yeah.
Ours was a much smaller scale, you know.
Yeah. And these Japanese were so holed up in these caves that it was really your 155s were ineffective against us.
Yeah.
Like you say,
you had to actually dig them out.
You had to dig them out.
Yeah.
Infantry, that's where the infantry came.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I say, the infantry, these guys were fantastic, honest. What they went through and what they did,
Yeah.
man, you couldn't get many people to do it.
You're right. Now, Bill, that was, like you said, that was probably late 44, early 45.
Yeah.
That you were in the Philippines. And were you actually there then when we actually, would you say, conquered the Philippines or got it back?
No, they were still going on. Once they got Clark Field close up. One of our regiments, combat regiments, we didn't even take our guns. I don't know why we were there, but we were there too. Went over to Panay Island. An LST took us over there, and they had about a regiment of Japs there. And it took about a week to clean that up.
Now, an LST,
Now that one there, we had to walk from the beach to this town where the Japs were concentrated. And you know, you go on both sides of the road, about 20 feet apart. And we were going down the road, and the man in front of me, the Japs always left snipers. And they hit the kid right in front of me, right through the head.
oh boy.
He just fell over dead.
How does a soldier live with seeing something like this?
You just keep going.
Now, you use the term LST for the audience.
That's the big job.
Okay, what's an LST, for example?
A landing ship tank.
Okay, now
They could take about 10 tanks in there.
that's a naval vessel.
With the door, the front, they flop
Flops
down.
down.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Then you can run that up to the beach
that's how you got from the Philippines to
to Panay,
Panay. That's
Yeah.
another island there, is it?
another island in the Philippines. So we cleaned that one up, and we stayed there for about a week. Then they had another deal about like that in Negros Island.
Negroes.
Yeah, and the same thing. I think we had this regiment of, infantry regiment, and we went there, and we were there about 2 weeks to clean it up. But then we stayed there. We stayed there because now, this was down in now it was 45, and rotation was starting. They were starting the rotation. We were the oldest outfit in the Pacific, so obviously, I was picking. You know, if you got numbers.
Right.
So I got picked for the first.
To go back home.
Yeah, to go home.
And did they bring you home to discharge you or
Yeah.
make you?
Yeah.
So you were brought home. Is it back to Buffalo?
Well, we went to the San Francisco, this ship, the
Okay.
Sea Witch. It was an old Liberty ship.
Okay.
There were 2,200 of us on there. We landed in Frisco, and we were unloading there, and they were putting it right on the train, but I had a little spot of jungle rot on my nose. Hamm, Angel Island. That's in the harbor out there, Alcatraz and Angel, and they had a big army hospital there. You go to Angel Island, you're going to be stuck there for a while, because they had to get rid of the jungle rot.
right.
Band-Aid that big. So here I am. I went on there. Oh, when we left there, they made us take our money out of the soldier's deposit. They had like we could save your money. So I took $200 and I sent the rest. I put the rest in the check. We got on that first boat, the biggest crap game I've ever been in. They covered the whole deck. There must have been 50 guys, and we had invasion money, pesos. No ones. Everything 5 over.
Oh boy.
First time I think I've ever seen $1 million in cash.
Whoa!
Well, you can't believe it.
Whoa!
I never got the dice. I little. I lost. I think I lost 50 by the hell with this because you never get the dice anyway. But oh my God, that was amazing.
Couple quick things. What did you make per month as a private?
Over there I was a T. By then I was a T4.
Okay, T4.
That was equivalent to a buck sergeant.
So you made big bucks then?
$93.
A month?
Oh, that was a lot of money.
I guess.
When I got in, we were getting $21 a month.
21 bucks a month?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you went to Angel, you got...
Angel Island, I was there for a week.
And where was that again? Where was it?
It's right in the bay, San Francisco
San Francisco Bay. So you went there to get cured?
Yeah, well, I went in there, and this was amazing. They knew that we hadn't had anything fresh. So I walk in, and he says, what do you want to eat? I said, boy, I'd love a steak. Okay? They put a big T-bone on. This is no kidding. He says, what else you want? Milk. I said, I haven't had any fresh milk in a couple of years. He had about 10 cartons of milk. He said, when that steak's gone, you want another one? We'll throw another one on. So I went that up. What do you want now? I said, well, how the hell does ice cream taste? They started handing that out. So then start the next day, I got up at 8 o'clock. They dabbed the little round band they did. Here, they said, okay, the ferry goes out in 10 minutes. It comes back at midnight. Make sure you're on it though, damn it, because we have to account for you.
Okay. Now,
So I had $200, I won $300 on the ship coming over. I had $500 in my pocket, I'm in
Wow.
San Francisco.
Some bucks.
Oh my God.
And how many years, months, or would you say you were in active duty and active duty in World War II?
Well, all the time we were in Pacific, we were in either combat or combat areas.
So
Because Hawaii was a combat area when I
you
got
went
out
on
there.
active duty back in McClellan, then you went from there to the Pacific.
Yeah.
So total time and years service you gave to,
I think it was just, I don't think it was quite, it was either 5 years, give or take a few days.
five years. That's a long time to be on active duty. Now
I missed 5 Christmases at home.
wow, you were a single man. You
Yeah.
were not married when you went over, you were a single man.
Yeah.
So you came back home, discharged, and when did you meet Mrs. Hamm? How did this all work?
Well, actually, his sister, I met his sister for the first time, my buddies,
Okay.
and eventually I married her.
This the guy that you went into the 106 with, his
I spent over 5 years, we were buddies we've been buddies for, he just died. We've been buddies for over 70
Wow.
years.
And this was in South Buffalo, from South Buffalo, these people. So that's how you met the missus.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And briefly, Bill, what did you do in civilian life? What did you do?
I didn't know beans about anything when I come home. Anyway. But you know, I always had the attitude, especially I learned a lot of this when I was on the hobo there. If somebody else can do it, you can do it, damn it. So if somebody says, hey, if you can do this, can you do this job? Certainly I can do it. I don't know what the hell they were talking about a lot of times.
Yeah.
But you always manage to get the job and get it done. So, at any rate, like I say, we got married, we had 2 kids, and we lived down in the war in Bolton Street, first ward. And I fixed the place up, painted, wallpaper, fixed the windows, did the whole thing. Then one day the landlady came up and said, oh, Bill, the apartment looks good. By the way, I'm giving you a notice, I want this for my niece. It was probably, I think, it's hard to go back then. I think maybe somewhere in July or something like that, August.
Yeah.
Or early in August.
But the work you did to put food on the table, what were you doing? How were you earning money?
Well, I got a job at the steel plant.
Steel plant, Bethlehem?
Republic.
Republic Steel.
Oh, yeah.
That's South Buffalo.
Yeah.
So you
If
worked
they hadn't, first of all, I worked there 7 years.
7 years?
In 7 years, I had 6 strikes, and the shortest was 3 months.
Wow.
So finally, I went up to the superintendent of bar mills, and I said, Larry Edwards, I said, I have to quit. I said, Cripe, I just get a couple $100 in the bank, and we got to strike again. He said, Bill, don't quit. He's like, I've been watching you and watching a couple of the guys. He says, I think you're a good candidate for a roller, which is that's a job up here. At any rate, I said, I can't take that chance. I said, for God's sake, I'm not getting any place. I can't save any money, I can't do nothing. So I did quit. They had 1 3-day strike after I quit. But at any rate, then I got a job in a heat treating plant, which I didn't know what the hell heat treating was. The 2 guys that owned it had 4 years in college, Michigan State, in metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked their brains a little bit. And they knew theory coming and going, but they couldn't turn a good job out twice the same way.
Right.
So then I started by getting books at the library and studying. And in 3 years, I was running the place.
You were running the heat treatment.
I ran that for 20 years then.
You know, Bill, we're almost out of time here.
Yeah.
We're trying to time this for an
I'm
hour.
screwing you up.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing. I want the audience to know something about Bill Hamm. We talked last night on the telephone, and I asked Bill. Essentially, I said, tell me about your awards and decorations." And Bill said, "I don't have any." I said, "Well, certainly with 5 years active duty and combat, certainly you're entitled to many." But then I offered at that time to begin the paperwork process, and Bill, kind of guy being as he is, said, "I don't want to bother." So I very, very low-keyed and very humble about his service. But I know because I'm a retiree, and I know that he would be entitled to many. But Bill, and you had told me the 106, you still are active in the
Oh, yeah.
106. Bill's 87 years old, still active in the one. Let me do this now, Bill, in closing. I would like for you, turn this over to you for a little bit, because, briefly, what would you have America learn from you? What would you have our young people or our people of today learn from a guy your age who's done it all
Yeah.
and who's defended your country? What would you have for us?
Well, for one thing, the biggest problem I had after I got home and got married and that was money. There was no place you could borrow a buck without any. You have no nothing for security, nothing at all. And I think for one thing, this government, they should make some kind of money available for a loan. I don't mean give it to them. They don't want. Most of us, we didn't want anything for nothing. We were willing to pay for what we had. I don't know, foolish pride, whatever the hell you want to call it, but that's the way we were in them days. But if there had been some money available, life would have been a heck of a lot easier for me. I made it anyways, but boy, it was a heck of a job.
So you're speaking maybe for these troops that are
These guys,
coming
when they
home
come
from Iraq?
home, they make stuff available, money, whatever it takes available to help them out, to help them get a start. Because you're a young kid. I don't care how smart you are, you're not up on everything, and you do need some help.
I follow. Bill, that pin that you wear, is that
That's the 106th insignia.
106 inch, so you still wear that? And
Oh, yeah,
You guys
sure.
still meet 87 years, and you guys
Yeah,
still
I
meet?
got a 68th reunion coming up,
68.
the next, the 4th of October.
Where will you have that reunion?
The Masson Avenue
You
Armory.
guys will meet there, you have dinner, do you, and stuff?
Have dinner and have a good meeting and talk a little bit about the old days.
Oh,
and-
great.
and
In closing, on this end, I want to thank you, the missus and your daughter, for coming down here and sharing with us. It's guys like you that are an inspiration to a guy like me. I am motivated to keep the program going. And when I see your dedication, and I'll ask you one question before I let you go. If you had to do it all over again, all the grief you saw,
Wouldn't even doubt it, do it right away.
you right away. That's a sign of a true American. No wonder you guys are my heroes. You guys who did your thing in these wars.
You gotta realize, when World War II broke out, everybody in the country wanted to do something. Just about, not everybody, but just about
Yeah.
everybody. They wanted to do their part. They wanted to do something, anything, to help the country. Hey, our country was facing, not extinction, but sure as hell, a downgrading for the least. So you had to, you don't live here for nothing. You may live here for nothing, but you shouldn't. You should contribute something.
Freedom is
Now-
not free, Bill.
Not bragging or anything. I've been a volunteer fireman for 55 years.
Excellent.
Oh, I try to do what I could. I flag a flag. I always flew a flag. People are too goddamn lazy to even fly a flag. Hey, come on, you're getting some damn good living here.
It's a good country, isn't it, Bill?
You damn right it is. There's none better. I'll tell you, right now we're kind of sick. No, we're very sick. And we need all the help we can get. And I mean that. This country needs all the help they can get right now.
Mr. Bill Hamm, I want to shake your hand, and I want to thank you for your
Thank you for the
contributions.
opportunity.
Not only for the Veterans History Project, but for all your service, Bill.
Oh, well, hey. Yep,
Thank you, Bill.
you're welcome.